Menscape The Podcast with Carl.J. Ashley.
So, good evening from Tipperary and welcome to the Menscape podcast for March 2023 and the one and only Pauline Walsh. How are you doing, Pauline?
I'm doing very well, Carl.
Welcome on the show. Good to see you. Good to hear from you.
It's good to see you over in Tipperary. We're just over the border in Limerick.
Yeah, we're not too far away. So as you can see, I've managed to manifest a kind of a pillar of light to shine down on my head there.
Yeah,
whilst with a bit of evening sun.
Stay in the centre. You can get it through your crown chakra down to your
There
third
you
eye.
go. Now you said it. That's the way to do it. Yeah, we're lucky. We're blessed. When the weather's fine and they've stopped spraying the chemtrails, we get a fantastic evening sunset here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area.
So tell us a bit more about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, I am a 63-year-old grandmother, mother of 8 grandchildren. I have been a farmer, a shopkeeper, working in a bakery. What else did I do? Oh yeah, stable groom in Italy, babysitter, teacher of IT in Youth Reaching Hospital, and what else did I do? Oh yeah, I became a beekeeper then. I went and did my organic course in Drumcolliher in 2006, 7, 8, and I fell in love, or bees fell in love with me, and now I have a slight addiction to beekeeping.
Wow. So it'd be easier to say, what didn't you do?
Oh, I also have reflexology, aromatherapy, and pranic healing under my belt.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So beekeeping would sound to me like something you don't exactly just fall into. You need to go away and learn how to do it and what the optimal strategy is. And if you're sticking your hand into a hive of bees, you kind of need to know what you're doing. It's not something you're going to do on a whim, is it?
No. When I was in the organic college, they had a couple of hives there, and the guy that came and had them asked, did anybody want to go? Of course, I'd take any opportunity that's going to try something new. So I went out and I fell in love with the bees. It was just so easy to actually work with them. I suppose it was just time was right for me to be learning about the bees. And I was out there one day and one of the lads said, are you not roasted in the suit? Because you have to stand behind the hive, because if you stand in front, you're in the flight path of the bees. And I was behind the hive, but my bee suit was covered in bees from behind. And they said, are you not roasted? I said, no. They said, you're covered in bees. I didn't know. So seemingly they had taken a liking to me and I to them. So that was 2007, I think. I got my first colony.
Yeah.
And they died because I didn't know enough. Even though I was going to the college getting some information, then the second colony I got was another swarm, and they died, and I didn't know enough. So we pushed for Drumcolliher to get a QQI level 5 beekeeping course, which would run from September till June. I wasn't going to get bees again until, like you said, you know how to look after the animal.
Yeah.
It's like going into a farm. If you don't know how to look after the cows, what's the point of farming? Like,
how many would you have? You mentioned a swarm, you mentioned a hive. What kind of numbers are you talking?
What you mean? What's in the hive, or how many hives do you have?
Sure. Is there hundreds? Is there thousands?
Okay, in the winter, which is about now, you've about 25,000 in a hive, and that includes a queen and mostly female workers. There would be the odd drone, which are the males, because they're usually not there for the winter. And it can expand up to 50 to 70,000 in a colony in the summer, a good strong working colony.
Wow.
Yeah. And you have to find one queen in the middle of all those.
And what do you do with her when you find her?
You mark her so that you know what age she is. And if you are not going to be able to assess them very regularly, you would clip her so that when she gets older, she would swarm off and you wouldn't lose the whole colony, just lose the queen. Some people don't like tipping their queen. It's mixed bag of opinions on it.
That sounds like that's like something you do in a game of chess, tipping your queen, huh? Yeah. So how did you become interested? Like I've read somewhere ages ago now that there's kind of, Manuka honey on the shelves in the shops there that was kind of like vastly over the price of anything else, like 20 euros for a little jar of the stuff, and it come from New Zealand. But what I read was that if you're gonna take honey, you need to ingest or digest local honey that's produced in the environment that you're living in. It's no good shipping it in from New Zealand, no matter how good it is. It needs to be from the local flora and fauna. Is there any truth in that? And are they justified in charging so much for this so-called fabulous Manuka honey from New Zealand?
Well, the Manuka strategy was a good marketing strategy because seemingly the amount of Manuka plants and flowers in the world are not the same amount as the amount of Manuka honey that's produced.
So something's not adding up there, right?
No, but if you say you have Manuka honey and you have a jar and you put a teaspoon of Manuka honey into it, because of the way you can market things and sell them, you don't have to say how much is in it. You don't have to put a percentage. Once you have a teaspoon, like if I sold you a jar of Irish honey and you made mead with 1 jar of honey and 50 jars of other honey, you can call it Irish mead because there's 1 jar of Irish honey in it.
Mm.
So it's very, very good marketing strategy. It's good for you. Yes, you're right. It's supposed to be the local flora that you're supposed to work for your allergies. And because it's not scientifically proven, you can't put that on a label. But I have people who buy honey and they swear by the pure honey and that reckon their asthma and allergies are improved because of it. And whether it's anecdotal or fact, who knows?
There's a lot of things not scientifically proven that science is only catching up with in terms of the ancient wisdom. And in a lot of cases, unfortunately, science only refers to, the studies done by what the people funding the scientists want to prove or want to disprove. So
Yes.
unfortunately, science has become a very skewed thing and is obviously all about challenging the established sort of way of thinking about things, coming up with new ideas, coming out with new data, coming up with new experiments and testing and retesting, and science is meant to evolve, not stagnate with just, sort of financial backing for, pre-established kind of hypotheses that certain special interests or lobbyists want to then sort of prove in inverted commas,
I've often wondered about the science, if they wanted to find the compound in a nettle that helps with arthritis, because they tell you should have nettle tea to help improve your arthritis, and they want that singular compound. Whereas I've kind of thought it's the nettle, the whole nettle. It's not just one portion of the nettle. It's everything combined. So if you take one part away, the other part won't work. And that, I'm not a scientist, but that's my opinion, that if you're segregating all the little bits and pieces, sure, it's not going to work. It's all like a little chain that it all works together.
This lack of any kind of holistic approach. If you saw the Menscape podcast that we did with the one and only Mr. Richard Rocker, unfortunately, is kind of dictates medical practice, where they look at your foot, or you go to a foot specialist, or a specialist for a certain area of the body, and they deliberately don't teach these people a holistic approach, where the overall functioning of the human body is the optimal strategy for that. So you get a lot of specialists in just things like, I don't know, livers or fingers or whatever body part, and they just specialize in that. And obviously, without an understanding of the whole organism, how can you sort of, take those things in isolation without looking at the whole unit. You're right. Yeah.
Yes, it's the mind, body, and spirit. It's not just the piece. Like if somebody hurt me and my heart is hurting because somebody broke my heart, I'm going to have a pain in my heart, and it's emotional as much as anything. And I've read somewhere in the last day or two that the heart has its own little neuro thingies that the brain has. So it works.
Electromagnetic fields.
It works totally separate to the brain. So if you don't fix the brain and the heart together, you won't fix the whole person.
Have you mentioned reflexology and aromatherapy? Have you forayed much into the world of healing, or was that through sort of your own personal journey?
I was working with reflexology. It's just clients in the area, and at the time I started, I did Swedish body massage, reflexology, aromatherapy, and at the time there were advertisements in the local paper where when somebody was offering a massage, it was more than a massage, depending on the wording. So being of a small local village at the time, this was in the 90s, there was little innuendos that they'd be looking for extras and how much would they be giving extras. But I didn't have an awful lot of clients. So I don't think it was for me, really, even though I'm good at it. I have worked on somebody who was overdue their baby and they went into labor that night because I was able to bring them into labor. I enjoy doing it. If people want a massage or treatment, I would gift it rather than charge for it, because beekeeping is my forte really now.
Are you giving away jars of honey?
No. No, I don't. I do give them away when I'm trying to find a shop that will take my my honey. I've got a new place now down in hospital. Sorry about that interference. I just turned off my phone because it made a clicking. A message came in and I just said it's easier to turn it off. But
is your honey for sale in somewhere like the Urban Co-op in Ballysimon, for example?
No, mine is only local because I haven't got a big enough production. I work for Galty Honey and they sell in there, but I don't need to go that far anyway. It's.
So where is local for the benefit of our audience? Oh, you've gone a bit psychedelic there.
I know. I was looking at that thing and what's going on here.
Wow, that was cool. How did you do that?
It was doing some flash, and I wasn't moving it. It was doing it all by itself.
You're based in Knocklong, which is kind of County Limerick, right?
Yes.
Somewhere near kind of Kilmallock and Hospital and these ancient towns.
Yes. This Knocklong is the proper name for the town in Irish.
Okay.
It's what we've been told is the Hill of the Ships. So where I am living would have been a lake. There's loads and loads and loads of underground rivers and streams here.
Yeah.
That when we had our shop, because there was no damp-proof coursing in the shop, if it was very bad rain, the rivers would flood into the shop underneath. We'd open up the shop in the morning and we'd be sweeping water out to meet the customers.
Wow. Yeah, there's something magical about there was a hill that we drove past, and I said one day, let's go and check this place out. And we went up on a little bit of a wild goose chase at first, and then eventually found what we were looking for. And it looked like an ancient graveyard or an ancient kind of site on the top of a hill there, where there was a kind of a derelict kind of fort or a keep. There's a lot to, like, when you look at the stone circle in Grange and you look at the priory in Kilmallock, there's definitely a lot more to County Limerick than meets the eye, isn't there?
Yeah, because then when this area was a row over the land and wizards or whatever, they put curses on the places and dried up the whole area. And then another wizard, I suppose, or whatever he was, magical person, broke a spear in two, and he threw it one side and then threw it the other side. So there's across from me, 2 fields away, there's a stream that rises up. It's Curraheen, and then there's a carnivore over near in Ballinvrina. There's another one. So that was seemingly from the castle site up in Ballinvrina, and there's supposed to have been a tunnel from the Knocklong to Ballynahinch house. So that I don't know. None of us have ever found it. We did spend our childhood lifting stones trying to find it.
Lochgur was like they've sort of obviously invested a few bob in it now, and there's a kind of a visitor centre. But there's a very curious landscape there where you have the lake and the hill and the site. And obviously they've done a bit of digging there and found remains from is it the Iron Age or the Bronze Age?
There's a few ages, I think, that they've gone back to.
Yeah.
And I think Lochgur went extended further over, if you know the road, the back road to Ballinashy.
Yeah.
And if in the wet, when it's really, really bad over there, it floods. Seemingly that was part of Lochgur, but it was drained out a bit.
Yeah, what we're seeing now today is obviously a different landscape from what there was back then. Anyway, I've got a few more questions that I'm going to throw at you here. Have you ever written a book?
I'm working on it.
You're writing one?
I'm writing one.
Fantastic. We'll come back to that in a minute. Have you ever jumped out of a plane?
No.
Ever rode a horse?
Yes.
Have you ever driven a Ferrari?
No.
Have you ever eaten an insect?
No. Not on purpose.
Have you ever been abducted by aliens?
Every time I go through a door and forget what I've
Interesting. Have you ever walked on hot coals?
No.
Have you had children? You mentioned being a grandmother. Presumably that's a yes.
I have 3 children, three girls.
3 girls. Fantastic. And did you ever do public speaking?
Yes.
Have you ever cheated death?
Yes.
And there's a recent thing I introduced there in the Menscape podcast, and we'll say, have you ever had a glitch in the matrix experience? Our last guest, Mark Atwood, I think his whole life was a glitch in the matrix, so I didn't ask him. But have you ever had an experience where your perception of reality was just so, you're like, what the hell's just happened there? What on earth is going on?
I think that happens to me regularly.
You're having regular glitches in the matrix experiences.
Oh, I have. People say to the Matrix, what the hell is the Matrix? It's like the box, you know. People say think outside the box, and I look and think, I've never been in a box. What you telling me about get out, think outside the box? So understanding what a Matrix is just, I don't know what it is.
So mine was having a dream within a dream. It freaked me out completely. I woke up when I was about 15. I went to the shops. I got my paper bag. I did my paper round. Took about 45 minutes. I came home and I got dressed for school. I was always on the last minute. I was always running late. So I legged it down the road to catch the bus for school. Got on the bus, sat down and woke up again. Back to the shop, flaming paper round. I was furious, Pauline. I was really, it was so real. I'd already done the paper round. I swear to God, I'd already done it. And here I was doing it again for a second time, coming home, getting changed, doing everything for the second. I'd already done it. And that dream within a dream, it was a pure glitch in the Matrix type experience where what is reality? How can you say that this is real and a dream isn't? And do we then, when we die, not just wake up from this dream?
Yeah, it's like the deja vu kind of thing. Or sometimes you're talking about or thinking about somebody and they ring, you know, that you're connected.
That's different now. That's a little bit more explainable than the sort of glitch in the Matrix. If you're thinking about someone, then there's some kind of telepathic vibe. So there's an energetic connection or some kind of, you know, chords that you can't see. I could explain that easier than something like a dream within a dream.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it because I'm, I suppose, theoretically I'd be the black sheep of the family. So I think maybe I'm out of the matrix a long time. I don't know. I definitely look at things differently to a lot of my peers. You know?
Yeah, I signed up for the Black Sheep Club too.
I don't know, do you sign up for it? You evolve. I think it happens at lambing time, doesn't it, when you're born?
What are your favorite books, and which ones would you recommend for anyone listening, and why?
Oh my God. Any self-help book.
Too vague. Home it down a bit for me.
Come on, home it down. I've done Louise Hay.
Louise Hay. What's the name of the book?
Oh God, I can't remember. It's a long time ago since I read her books. But that's the journey that I started on. I started trying to read, because I hated books when I was growing up. I was just read the first page, fall asleep, come back the next day, have to read the first page again because I couldn't remember what the first page said the night before. So, and then I tried 3 Mills and Boons, and on the third one I said all they did was change the characters' names. It was a waste of time.
Yeah,
it was a different country, same plot, same sugar. I didn't want to be looking at that rubbish. I'll tell you, reading wasn't my strong point. One of the reasons being because of a teacher knocked me down for most of my national school, which would have given my lack of interest.
yeah.
And then when I started developing into helping myself, I suppose, I just found the self-help books were very good. I read a book by Bernie Siegel. I can't remember the title of it, and it was a whole lot of short stories. He's Dr. Bernie Siegel, of people who help themselves heal.
Yes.
One of his clients had cancer, and instead of going for treatment, he planted daffodil bulbs in the autumn. And somebody said, "Why aren't you going for treatment?" He said, "Well, there's 2 things. I haven't time because I want to plant these bulbs. And if I see them in the spring, I'll see them in the spring. And if I don't see them in the spring, I'll see somebody else who will remember me in the spring." And when I read that book at that time, that story, Bernie Siegel had written that person was still alive 5 years later, no illness. So I kind of was starting to think on, yeah, we can work on ourselves. It's all about us doing our own thing.
This is huge. This is all about the power of belief. And even if you're not academically inclined, which it sounds like that's what you're saying, is you weren't academically inclined through stuff, but the mind over matter kind of thing, if you believe in something, there's a power, or there's an element of something that, again, they haven't caught up with yet in terms of modern science to explain it, but there's something in the power of belief. I was only chatting to a girl yesterday who, like that, she'd survived 3 sort of cancer surgeries and spent 10 years in a situation where she was looking to heal. And she just said, "Look, I just chose to believe that the cancer couldn't kill me, and that was it." And she defied all of that and went on to create, I think it was called the Circle of Friends in Tipperary.
All right.
And this, again, this power of belief. If you believe you can, or you believe you can't, then you're right. Was it Henry Ford said? Yeah. And is that down then to our powers of manifestation as a divine being? We're all kind of divine will manifest in a man or a woman or what have you. But we're not taught that in school. We're not taught how powerful we are, and these abilities that we have to create our own reality. In fact, it's the opposite. We're kind of taught to think that we're not up to much, we're not going to amount to much, and who are we to think that we can be great?
You're not good enough.
It's institutionalized, isn't it?
It's institutionalized, but I also have this feeling, maybe it's the matrix thing, but if they see somebody who is, even at a very, very young age, I went to school when I was 3 because they were short of numbers. my mother was told they'd hold me back for a year. But I think they see something special and bright in people who go to school, whom they cascade more than others. That we might be a bit more boisterous or rebellious, or in their eyes rebellious, but we might be just happy and smiley and see good things all the time. And I think it's their power of darkness to bring the light down, and if they can, they'll eliminate us by doing this. Most people that don't make it out of the light, because they are powerfully light, but they die because they can't deal with the oppression of the other evil people, and they commit suicide or die of young of an illness. And that's my intake of the whole thing, that it's only in the last few years I've realized that I think it's because of all this lockdown and stuff, I've discovered so many like-minded people that are beautiful, light people. And if we haven't died before this, through all the traumas we've all had, I think we're here for a specific purpose. And those who try to eliminate us were part of the dark side, whether they knew it or not. They were just part of the catalysts that were there to try and eliminate the good. It might sound like Codswallop to some people, but it's my belief.
There are certain good arguments for the case that this reality is like a loosh farm for interdimensional beings that feed off hate, fear, anger, and lower vibrational and lower density energy, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And their time has come to an end. We're in the age of Aquarius, the age of ascension, and we might be getting a bit of outside help from, shall we say, extraterrestrials of a positive...
The Galileans, or whatever they're called.
Who knows? Well, we might be getting a bit of help, and there's a lot to be said for that. So coming back to books, have you read anything that's kind of blown your mind, other than the healing and the self-help type things, that sticks out that you can remember?
No, I can never remember. I could watch a film, read, and I just don't remember what it is. I definitely think that's where my Starship stuff comes in. It goes blank. I can watch. Call the Midwife is my favorite program.
Call the Midwife.
Yeah, I can watch the series from beginning to end and not have remembered seeing that whole series. Haven't seen series 1 to 12, and I've seen them all. And I can look at the thing with the eyes being new again. Oh, actually, Call the Midwife series of books is actually my favorite books, now that you say it. Because I read them, and then the film, the program came on television. I said, oh, I'm going to have to watch this.
So do you remember the author name, or we can find out? We can
yeah, I off the top of my something Worth. I can't think of her off the word.
When you were talking about healing, right?
I can think of songs. I can sing songs, but don't ask me who sings them. I don't care. I really don't care who sings them. I don't care who writes them. If I enjoy it.
I'd say I must have been around 19, and I'd gone away from home as a fresh-faced, young, lily-livered and green-eyed boy, and escaped the home environment, ended up in Leeds doing my degree in psychology and philosophy. And I'm sat down reading this book about placebo effects. And what they were basically saying was that people that were diagnosed as fully blown schizophrenics were given a pill and told it would cure them. And apparently 33% of the people in the control group. So as I was saying, I was a fresh-faced young boy in the university in Leeds, and I've got this psychology textbook in front of me, and they're saying that fully sort of fledged and diagnosed schizophrenics are given a sugar pill and told it'll cure them. And I'm thinking, the implications of this are utterly remarkable. How can this thing called the placebo effect be explained? If somebody's told this is going to make you better, then surely it's their own belief that's creating that. And if someone's being told they won't get better, then surely their belief will create that equally. How do you
Right.
explain placebo?
I'll explain another thing. My grand uncle, married into the family, was a doctor. And I heard stories of him going around with this lovely little pill box, loads of different color pills in it. He'd come to you and he'd go, bum, 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 take one of those 3 times a day and you'll be better in 3 days. Don't know what the pills were. People used to reckon if he handed out Smarties, they'd believe him.
Did it do the job?
It must have, because they swore by him.
Cool.
And that was, I suppose, back in the 60s, because it wouldn't have been as pharmaceutical as it is now.
Yeah, all that kind of pharma stuff really took off in the 60s with the advent of the behavioral psychologists and the likes of the companies that basically were, like IG Farben were behind the sort of the Second World War, and their leading guys effectively, created companies that would then sort of experiment on the troops and on the soldiers with whatever it was they were looking to develop. You mentioned the last 2 or 3 years earlier, and the whole kind of phenomenon, and how it's actually been a positive thing, because a lot of like-minded people have been able to get together that could see through sort of what you might call was a scam from day one, and sort of look at how the implications of this behavioral programming are seeing how society responds to suggestions as to how to behave.
Yeah.
What really woke you up to seeing the truth behind what's been going on? And was there anything in particular on your own journey that made you sort of double question the narrative that we've been sort of, brought up to believe, that, the government's got your best interest at heart?
I just knew whatever was going on in the beginning was wrong. I can't explain. There's lots of things I can't explain, but I know what I know. Even now, I can tell you good has won, not will win, has won. I have been told, I don't know who told me, but I know. I can wake up in the morning and I know, whether it's divine intervention, higher power, whatever. But I
Yeah.
feel it in my heart. I feel it in my heart. One of the things I was looking at recently was we should be offering love to those that are doing us wrong, even those dark oligarchs, because they can't deal with it for a start. And the more love we show them, the better it is for us with the healing journey for everybody. And I thought, that works. That works for me in my mind, because I've had a few instances that people that I didn't like, and of course, I never wish them evil, because I've been told if you wish evil for two, you get double back. So I said, okay, I want to stop this bad feeling. So I said, I'll say a prayer for them out of greed. I'd say one Hail Mary for each of them, and I'd get 2 blessings back. The greed was my 2 blessings. And it made my mind at peace. It reduced my angst against the people. And it proved to me that, well, the anger, like if I'm angry with you, who's it going to affect? It's not going to affect you. You're over there in Kilross and I'm here, and you don't give a sugar about whether I'm cross with you or not. That's my bitterness, my anger, my sickness.
The Buddha described it as a gift not received. If you choose not to accept somebody's, anger towards you. Yeah.
But you don't know you won't know if I'm angry towards you. It's me.
I went into a shop in Galbally, and, from day one, I refused to wear a mask. It was obviously a load of bollocks, that a microscopic virus can pass through sort of, particles of cotton. Come on. Anyone with half a brain cell, like obviously in a surgical setting, you see that the operating staff in the theatre have masks on, and that's for good sense.
Yeah, it's to stop the droplets going into the patient.
It's also not something that you would recommend to be rolled out to the public, but people picked up on this, and I said, no, I'm not doing that. that's basically me complying to not speaking my truth and saying I will shut up and not speak my truth and just go along with this. And I'm not of that ilk. And in this shop, I just popped in with my daughter and we were just getting a couple of bits, and there was this fella, and I'm not kidding you, he was absolutely huge. He could have played rugby for Ireland. He was about 20 stone and he was massive. And I thought he was going to punch me through the wall of the shop. He turned around and he pointed at me and he's like, I've just buried my mother because of people like you. And I'm like, look, what the fuck's he on about? What did I do? But he's like, because you're not wearing a mask. You're not keeping Granny safe. And this bullshit that was coming through the main broadcasting channels, through the sort of cabal-owned media, that was filtering through to these guys. And he was just a local rural guy. There was nothing wrong with him, but he was obviously traumatized and upset because he just buried his mother. But he believed genuinely that I was a threat to people's health because I was just breathing fresh air and not wearing a mask.
I had
like, what are we coming to?
I had a similar downing me because I wasn't wearing a mask. Now, before the mask actually came in, I was in a local super value, and I'd asked the girl behind the counter, what happens if I come in and I can't wear the mask? I didn't know that I wasn't going to be able to wear the mask, because I just thought, sure, if I have to wear a mask for a few weeks, fine. I didn't believe in the virus as such. And then I was going home from there, and all of a sudden I started getting palpitations, and I felt like somebody was actually holding my wrists down. So it triggered me back to childhood abuse.
Right.
So I rang a politician in West Limerick and told him of my situation. I said, I'm not going to be able to wear a mask because I'm actually triggered now from a trauma. And I said, but there's an awful lot of other people who will be like this and they won't know why.
Yeah.
And he genuinely said, I've never thought of that. I never thought of somebody like that. So whether Section 5 came in because I made that phone call to a politician, I like to think it had some bearing on it. But then I rang my doctor, and the doctor said, I can't give you an exemption. I'm not allowed. So I didn't wear a mask, and I was going into my local shop, and I was told I couldn't go in anymore unless I wore a mask. And then it came to the time when honey was available again. This is funny. And he wanted my honey, and I said, if I can come in without a mask, you can have honey. He said, can't Terry bring it? I said, no. If I can't come in without a mask, you don't get honey.
Wow.
I said, I told you the reason why I can't wear it, because I actually did, even though he did. I didn't have to tell him why. I'm back selling honey there, but I wouldn't sell it for the year while I wasn't allowed to wear the mask going in there. And I did it as my own principal stance, because bugger that, you won't let me in to buy my food, so I'm not selling you my product. I don't need it. I didn't need him. Sure, I was sold out before January anyway.
So the vast majority of people, and there's a Mark Twain quote I think sums it up pretty well. It's a lot easier to fool people than it is to convince them they've been fooled. But it's not really that simple and straightforward, because we've all been deceived. I've been doing a good bit of research for the last wee while through a lot of channels on Instagram, actually, which has some very useful resources and tools. And they're basically saying every single one of us was dragged into a primary school and shown a globe Earth and sort of shown a model of the solar system and said, this is where you live. And then when your experience is that we're on a flat plane and it's stationary, but we're being told to believe we're on a ball that's flying through space at 100 miles an hour and spinning round. When you actually start digging into this and researching it, there's a lot of...
Think of the centrifugal spin that fires the honey out of the things, like sorry, I'm not so sure about this Earth thing, but look, I have enough to be worrying about besides whether we're flat or round.
But it's incredible. Who could pull off a lie that big?
Well, the human race have believed in Santa Claus for a long time.
and the tooth fairy.
Yeah.
I was the tooth fairy for a while. I'll spare you doing a spin in a tutu, but I used to, pop the couple of bob under the pillow for the kids, and but with all of that, it was like, nah, I'm sorry. Once they're old enough to come to me and ask, I'll tell them the truth. I'm not perpetuating this BS, because I don't think it'll help them mentally if they realize that they can't come to me and me tell them the truth about anything. And I was devastated over Father Christmas. I went to my mum when I was about 10 or 11. It's like, Mum, Christian Connor said Father Christmas is his mum, because he was pretending he was asleep and saw her put his presents in his wardrobe. Tell me that Christian Connor's full of lies and that I was right when I said there is Father Christmas, because you told me there was. And Mum's face went white and her jaw went, and I'm like, Mum? And like, no, and I'd lost face in school, but not just that, but it was like, if you told me that and I believed you, how can I ever believe anything you say to me ever again? And I took it really bad. My sister's like, Carl, you take everything too seriously. Just shut up and take the fucking presents, like, you know what I mean? It's obviously not real. You just take and she had a more pragmatic approach to it. But I was like, always, since I was knee-high to a grass, I was always obsessed with the truth, finding the truth, uncovering the truth, revealing the truth, discovering the truth. And I was so crestfallen that I'd been lied to, and it's like what they call in the movies, the willing suspension of disbelief, isn't it? You don't even have a chimney, or you don't even have a fire, and you're like believing as a kid,
all these new houses. How's Santa going to come in?
This is the power of imagination, right?
Yeah. There's like craziness that they're putting no chimneys on houses anymore.
I'm conscious at a time, and I don't want to keep you too much, Pauline. I've got another.
Okay.
What have we got here now? Best trip abroad and why? Any foreign travel that's comes to mind that you were inspired by?
I loved my trip to Nigeria, and I loved my trip to India. I loved all my trips abroad. But because both of India and Nigeria were not to tourist locations, they were fantastic.
So tell me first about Nigeria. When did you go and why did you go?
I went to my brother's 25th Jubilee. He's a priest, missionary serving out there, and I went out to celebrate with him. I travelled alone. It was just about 18 years ago.
So you're a white woman in the heart of sort of Nigeria. Did you get any funny looks, or how were you received?
I was received very well. I see. I don't see color per se. I see people.
Yeah.
Yes, they're dark skinned, and I have to mind my skin because the sun was there and I could get burnt.
Yeah.
That was more the issue of the dark and the white. I learned some of their language when I was there. I love to try and learn the language so I can actually have even hello, how are you every day. And
me too.
the way they do the guttural sound of this shouting when they're cheering. For my brother's mass, they were doing that, so they taught me how to do it, and I did it for the day. I had a sore throat, of course, because they learned that from a child. And the next day they were laughing because they were doing it back to me, and I was trying to do it, and I thought, I can't do it anymore. I was given loads of gifts. The kids, there was kids around there hanging around me. I'm a bit like the Pied Piper when there's children, and I'm somewhere. I always was. And we went to watch.
Over as fairly young at heart, like,
Yeah, I went to watch a football match, which to me on one night was awesome. These guys were running around with a ball made of leather skin or something. I don't know what it was, but they're all barefoot and they were all fantastic football players on a earth pitch. There was no grass, wasn't watered, but all these kids wanted to travel, and one young fella had no under knickers on, and they said he can't leave the village, he's no pants on. So I caught him underneath his bum, hooked him onto my hip, and covered his bum and all his privates into my hip. I said, he's okay now, he's covered, because he wanted to come and I couldn't leave the child behind. So that's when it went off. I just felt as natural a person there. And it was funny, they wanted to braid my hair, and I was dreading it because I have very fine hair and they're very coarse hair. But they went on the Bruca juice the night before, so they were a bit hungover, so they couldn't do it. And one of the ladies wanted to know, oh yeah, I cut myself out there. And the children said, your blood is red. I said, yeah, it's the same as ours. And I said, yeah. And then I said, it's the wrapper. All the thing that's different is the wrapper. Everything else inside is the same.
Yeah.
So for them, it was just as much an eye opener. And I was in a church then. The churches were tiny. They'd be the size of your kitchen, some of them. And I was there, and this little child was holding my hand. All of a sudden, the child looked up at me. It must have been about 3 or 4, and it saw a white face in the crowd. And the only white face he would see was the priest on the altar. It looked up and it screamed and ran away because it had never seen a white person other than the priest. And the whole church just rocked in laughter, you know.
I worked with a guy in Banter, one of the factories in Limerick, going back to around 2002.
Mm.
And fantastic guy, hugely intelligent guy, Nigerian in origin. And he said, if I was to take you to Nigeria, you would see things that you just would not believe. And I think he was referring to kind of voodoo and witch doctors and stuff like that. But he said there's literally thousands of languages and thousands of dialects and thousands of tribes. And they speak English as the international law or the international language of business and of law. But apart from that, it's an entirely ungovernable country because there's so many different accents, so many different dialects, and so many different languages, but a hugely phenomenal place to be. I'd say that was a fantastic trip. What does it feel like to wake up in Africa? Is it true what they say about it being the heart of the kind of the heart of humanity, the birthplace of...
I just loved it. I don't know, the people. See, because you're not in a tourist place, I went off to see where they were making the bowls, and I had to go out one night very late. Well, late was after 6 o'clock because it was dark. But I had to go and see where they were putting the fires together because they were making these big earth pots, and they put them into the ground, and they made these, they charcoaled them and furnace them. That's how they furnace them, to make them so they weren't porous.
Yeah.
It was just seeing their culture. It's just, we've lost that here. Agus níl is go to cadatá me ag grá anish, and that is Irish, and we had as many dialects in Ireland, even though it was the one language. You'd go from Kerry to Galway to Donegal and all the way around Ireland, and all of our dialects would be different, but we'd have similar words.
Yeah.
So in Nigeria, that it's Hausa is the commonest of the languages.
Yeah.
Before English, and Hausa was the one I was learning. And I have a daughter there now, a Nigerian daughter. Her mother was the cook for my brother, and she has died. So I kind of we've adopted each other without legalities. But she talks. I'm talking to her as my daughter Lucy, and she talks to me and her mama here. We're in contact, and thank goodness for WhatsApp, because I can send her a message for her birthday.
Yeah.
And with all these charities, I learned out there that only 20 cents of every euro goes to the location it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
So when I came back, I set up a fund for the missionary work that Michael does. And he said, is it just for Lucy? I said, no. Lucy needs it for education. And when Lucy's moved on, it can be for whatever it needs. There has been children who have had cleft palate operations. There are people who needed wheelchairs. There's been Muslims who needed breast cancer treatment. He said, is it for... I said, I don't care who gets it.
Yeah.
It's not a religious thing.
Yeah.
It's who needs it. And I don't put much into it, but there's other people who put money into it. You know, that 100% might be 9 or 10,000 in a whole year that goes out there, but it's 100% of 9 or 10,000, not
fantastic.
Not 2,000 goes out of the 10. So it's, you know, you feel, well, you've done something.
You mentioned India as well. That was a more recent trip, was it?
Yeah, that was a very recent trip last October. I did a yoga retreat with my niece out there. She's beautiful, elegant, white, Irish, English descent, and she has now got an Indian husband. He was a partner when I went out there, but they have a masala baby, which is what they call a mixed race baby in India. And I think it's beautiful because one of the curries,
Masala.
masala is mixed curries or something. The mixed spices is masala.
Okay.
So I think it's a beautiful context. So I went out to her, and like that, it was in a big town, city more or less. They don't consider it a town, but I consider it a city. But it was in the middle of everything Indian. The only thing, like, I was white, and you get people pulling you up and saying, "Can I have your picture with you?" Yeah. Can you imagine me doing that to a black person here? Can I have a picture with him? You're racist. You're having a picture with me. I mean, no, you're beautiful. You're black. I want to have a picture with you because I don't see that many.
Yeah.
It's because I was white. They wanted to see me. And then one guy asked me, could he have his picture with me? And then I realized I was older than the jovial bit of me, because it was with his father who wanted me to take a picture of him. I was like, oh, this nice young fella wants to take a picture with me, but no, it was with his dad.
When I was in,
it put me in my place.
I think it was Sri Lanka, I will never forget seeing the faces of the children where we went. And in terms of possessions, they didn't have anything. They were literally dressed in sort of hand-me-downs and what have you. And, you know, they went to the toilet in a hole in the ground, and you could see that, but they all smiled from ear to ear. They would grin, and they seemed so genuinely happy. And I compared it to kids back home in England and Ireland, and it's like, we're missing out on something. There's something where we're not really connecting with the earth. Maybe it's because we don't walk around barefoot, and we've got these kind of soles between our feet and the earth. And I don't know what it is, but to see the Sri Lankan children, they were so happy with nothing. You know the old adage where you can spend money on a Christmas present for a kid, and they'll get more happiness playing with the cardboard box that the present came in that didn't cost anything. It's that, and it's like, I never actually got the chance to go to India, but I'd love to go. It's such a huge country as well. There's different kind of climates and time zones within such a huge country. Did you get a chance to travel around, or did you just stay in the same place?
I pretty much stayed in the same place because it was a 9-day yoga retreat, and I was there for 14. So it wasn't really, but we were taken out up into the mountains, and we were supposed to see sunrise so we could see the Himalayas sunrise, but the clouds were down. But they did lift after the sun rose. It was just beautiful.
Is that kind of Kashmir or towards kind of Nepal and Tibet, sort of northeast India?
It's northeastern India.
Wow.
It was just, oh my God, it was just beautiful. I will go back. Everybody was lovely. There was 2 instances that I know I was being done over, but I was so tired when I arrived. This fella said, you need a taxi to get from one side of the airport to the other. So I just said, yeah, take me. He could have murdered me at that point in time, but I knew he wasn't. I just knew I was going to be charged too much. And then another guy on the stalls, the day I was there, he charged me too much. But I got him back because he said, oh, you were to come back to me. I said, yeah, but you charged too much, and then you went off. I said, I don't do that to your visitors. Don't mess with them. Treat them equally, and they'll come back. Because I went down to another shop, and when I was short of needing to get back up for my lunch, this guy, oh, I have a bike service here. I'll get you back up, and I won't charge you. Because I was spending in his shop, he appreciated it. He made sure I got home safe and home in time for lunch. It was just,
it's travel broadens the mind, and when you go to places like that, we met a guy called Chandy. He called himself. He was a tuk-tuk driver in Sri Lanka when we were in Gaul. And he said, like, he came to us apologizing. He's like, I'm really sorry for any of my fellow Sri Lankans that are just begging from you because, you know, you're white and you're wearing Levi's and fucking trainers or whatever. He said, if you want to go somewhere, will you let me know and I'll take you? And if you give me the opportunity to earn some money, I would really be grateful to that. And please don't think anything bad of my fellow people for begging. And we were staying in a hotel that was like obscene in the sense that you would need a week's wages back home for a bottle of wine from the cellar. Like the people staying there, we were on honeymoon and it was a trip of a lifetime, and I didn't mind, spending what I did for it. But we were literally staying with people that were like City of London solicitors and stuff. To them, it was just another break. But this was like a 6-star hotel, and not obscene. What's the word? Opulent, sheer opulence. But we connected more with the guy selling the jackfruit on the beach and the tuk-tuk driver because they were down to earth locals. And Chandy taught me, like, this kind of sort of sense of, if you just give me the opportunity. And I was learning the Sinhalese, I was learning the language, and he taught me how to say, "Are you crazy?" in Sinhalese. So if I needed to get a tuk-tuk into town and Chandy wasn't around, and the guys saw me coming out the hotel, they thought, this fucking flute's got tons of money and no brains. Whatever they quoted me, I would say to them back in Sinhalese, "Are you crazy?" And their faces would go white and they dropped the price by about 80%.
Yeah, you only need a couple of words to make it work.
And it was fantastic. But yeah, travel broadens the mind, and it's when you see the people in those places,
You also have to mind
they're
who's
so
open.
rich.
But you have to have an open mind when you travel. Travel won't open your mind if you haven't got the mind that's wanting to learn and see and see the world with awe every time you go. Like, I could have gone to a rich hotel or whatever. Well, I did. I spent 2 nights in a 33 euro 33 euro a night hotel, which was, to me, it was opulent, but I wouldn't have been paying whatever that was in equivalent here. I wouldn't have been buying that kind of a hotel here. I wouldn't want it. I
No,
mean,
it turned us
I've
off.
been to the Canaries, and I've gone to the inner part of the Canaries because the people that were there, I actually socialized with the workers than the people by the pool, because I couldn't stay
That's
out
what
in the
I'm
sun all
talking
the time.
about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You connect. I don't know if it's just my working class roots or what, but it was like a lot easier just to connect with the ordinary, authentic working class people than like the resort staff. The staff in the hotel were fine, but they were used to kowtowing to people and hoping to feed off the scraps of tips. And that's fair enough if they need that to survive, to get their families through whatever to survive. But where we were, it was amazing. They'd had a tsunami there a few years earlier on Boxing Day, and there was still the ruins of the buildings from where the tsunami had hit Gaul on the south coast, and it was something else. It really was. Anyway, I'm not going to rabbit on about.
Do you wonder about your tsunami now, knowing what you know about what the people are doing in the world?
The so-called earthquake in Turkey last week and previous, weather as a weapon is very topical, isn't it?
Oh, seemingly they refuse to be in NATO, and all the embassies emptied 48 hours or 24 hours beforehand.
Yeah, the cat's out the bag. I remember reading about HARP 15, 16, 17 years ago, and they said it was developed to find oil under the North Sea. So they would sort of send a sonar pulse and be able to detect the vibration or the frequency through, the density of the rock under the ocean to find oil. But when you see that it's got such tremendous power and is capable of doing so much destruction in the hands of the wrong people, it's obviously a, weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, I've shared a few links there of the DUMS recently of what has been happening in North America. You may have seen them on the thing, but hopefully that is what is happening, that the good guys are doing all this. I like to believe that good guys are doing.
Me too, but you can't sit back and wait for that. You still have to, you create your own reality and you do what you're doing, and you let your light shine as well. You can't just sit around and wait for the white hats to come and rescue us all, right?
No, you just hope that on their side that's what they're doing. On my side, like, I don't know what I've been doing for the last couple of nights. I've been flying around the bed here, and I woke up last night and all I kept thinking was no, what came out, and I said it, no. I don't know what I was dreaming or what I was meeting or what I was talking about, but no was the answer. Because I go to bed and I do astral planing some nights when I think of it, and I take Jesus. I go with Jesus, and we go wherever needs a bit of light and shine, and ask him to.
You're flying around the cosmos with Jesus,
Yeah,
and you're here doing the Menscape podcast with me. I'm truly privileged.
no, we're all part of Jesus. Remember that.
The Christ consciousness energy.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, the way we're saying about everything we need, ask and you shall receive, whatever that is in the gospel. But we have to ask. We have to ask for the help from the cosmos, from whatever you believe in, to help the healing of this planet. We can't expect it to turn up unless we ask. We have to really want it. I don't know if you've seen, there's a huge revival in America in a church. I can't remember the town, but they're meeting for the last 3 or 4 days, and they're singing gospel stuff, but it's not the normal gospel-y kind of stuff that you see these big guys making money. There's teenagers hanging on there, you know, and the whole area has cleared it. And I've seen where they've said, look, you can do this in your own area. It doesn't just have, it's a revival of faith, whether it's faith in God through whatever method, whether it's the light, whatever anybody believes in, you know. Your light has disappeared now.
I think a lot of the sort of current generation would perhaps, they'd see religion as overtly a sort of a mind control tool, and see how religion's been used to poison people, take people's land, take people's minds, take people's money, and it's an overtly a control system. But they're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater then, and rejecting spirituality and rejecting divinity and rejecting sovereignty, all under the branch of religion, and that's a shame.
Yeah, but I think this revival in America is the spirituality coming back, because I don't see it as one of these big guys saying, "Oh, come and be, and I'll heal," or whatever. It just seems to be something. I can't remember the name of the town in America. I'm very bad at that. I could just see it. Oh my God, this is powerful. And I felt the energy from it, that they're singing for the last 3 or 4 days and nights, nonstop. And they're coming from all over the country. And then one guy said, well, you can do it in your own town. You don't have to come here.
Yeah.
It can be any Joe Soap. I'm just an ordinary Joe Soap that decided I was going to do this. You know, I'm not doing it for money. It's not doing it for anything else, only the power of change, positive change.
That's a fantastic message, Pauline. So grandmother, mother, and beekeeper, we've used up practically all of our time. It's been a pleasure hearing from you. I'm going to literally whiz through a very quick 1-minute quick fire round, and then we'll part ways and get on with our evening. Aldi or Lidl? Whichever
is closest. And I probably won't go into be buying much in there now, because they're starting to sell meat patties with bugs in them.
Yeah, get your insects here. It's great for your diet, for protein, right?
Yeah, as long as you're not allergic to something.
England or Germany?
England.
Sunset or sunrise?
Or sunrise. Well,
Blonde
I like
or
sunset.
brunette?
Blonde.
Manchester or Liverpool?
I don't care.
Brown or pink?
Brown.
Kerry or Dublin?
Kerry.
Spots or stripes?
Neither.
Gardening or gym?
Gardening.
Boccherini or Echo and the Bunnymen?
I don't know what Baccarini is, so I take Echo and the Bunnymen.
Sun or moon?
Both.
Emerald or ruby?
Emerald.
Silver or gold?
Silver.
Beer or wine?
Neither.
Meat or cheese?
Meat.
Onions or carrots?
Carrots.
Salt or pepper?
Pepper.
Hurling or rugby?
Both.
Pizza or Chinese? You can't say both because you wouldn't have room.
Chinese, because I don't like the indications if I say pizza.
Finally, forest or beach?
Oh, that's not fair. I'd like a beach beside the forest.
There you go. There you have it. Your wish is my command. Thanks again, Pauline. Mind yourself and God bless. And
Namaste.
thanks so much
God
for
bless.
coming on and sharing your time with us.
That was great fun. I hope the men don't mind the female side of them coming in.
Of course not. We look forward to it.
Okay, guys, I'm a tomboy. I had 6 brothers, so I fit into the Menscape.
Well done, Pauline. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Take care, Carl.
Menscape, the podcast with Carl.J. Ashley.